A man, a legend, a way of life. Learn it, love it, and live it. Okay, let's spend some time on the phones here. We go back Daytona Beach. This is Linda. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Oh, thank you so much, Raj, for taking my call and getting me through the last crazy 10 years anyway.
Well, I'm glad you're out there, and I'm glad you got through today.
Thanks. I think Comey is one of, or the biggest leaker this whole time. Look how quickly he released this quote-unquote memo of his supposed conversation with himself and President Trump. Not to mention that it's taken how long to investigate this no-evidence Russian BS?
Yeah, no, it's over a year.
The FBI is incompetent, or Comey is incompetent and corrupt.
I don't know that there's a lot of incompetence here. I know what you mean by that, but I think this is all being fairly well executed by the people who have a strategy behind it. I mean, you have to have a lot of pieces in place to be able to carry out a story for which there's no evidence for over a year. You have to have you want to talk about a conspiracy. I mean, people love conspiracy theories. How does this happen? How do we get no evidence of anything into 5 investigations on Capitol Hill, numerous media investigations, and the big investigation by the real pros, the CIA, the NSA, and the FBI. Those are the people that can surveil and wiretap. And there's nothing. There's not a scintilla. There's not a whiff. There's no evidence whatsoever, and yet there's no end in sight to this. That's a pretty good trick. And it takes a conspiracy. It takes a lot of people conspiring together to make this happen. All it would take to unravel this is for one of these people on the left to say, there isn't any evidence. What are we doing here? We're wasting our time. We need to look at something else. We're not going to find any evidence. All it would take is one person in the media, in the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. All it would take would be one staffer somewhere of one Democrat. All it would take would be one renegade media member. And not a single leak, not a single betrayal of this. So I don't think this is incompetence. I think it's much worse. I think it has a purposeful, studied effort and outcome, which is a coup. We are watching a silent coup here to oust a duly elected president. And this coup is being mounted by career government people who can traffic anonymously and who are protected by people in the media and within the Democrat Party. Stop and think of it, folks. A year. How many? Hasn't the Washington Post at one time admitted that they have over 30 anonymous sources for all of this? That's just one newspaper. 30 anonymous sources there. How many anonymous people talk in the New York Times? How much overlap? How many sources are talking to both places? All these deep state career government people, ex-Obama people that are civilians now, we don't. But it is a lot of people. And there isn't any evidence. There's none. And it's going to continue whether or not. Not only is there no evidence, there is nothing to suggest the need of a special counsel. They can't even find a cover-up to cover up the fact that there's no evidence. What is the cover-up? When you don't have a crime, then what the hell is being covered up? But they've got people believing that there's a scandal here. And you know what the scandal is? Firing Comey. That's not a scandal. Firing Comey, the president can do that anytime he wants, for whatever reason he wants. And he doesn't need anybody's permission. But that is the supposed scandal. Now, about Comey, I mentioned earlier that I was reading some things last night about that. I said, this is embarrassing. This is really the desperation here. You have to balance what's coming up here with another reputation that we've been presented with. In the case of James Comey, and this goes back to the Bush presidency when he was the Deputy Attorney General for John Ashcroft. That's when I first became aware of the name of James Comey. And from that day forward, James Comey has been presented as a lawyer beyond repute. He is a lawyer who exudes integrity. He is flawless. He has never slipped up. This man is the epitome of honesty. This man is the epitome of courage. This man is the epitome of independence. This is the reputation of James Comey. This is why the Clinton campaign went through such conniptions when Comey was doing what he was doing, because he was doing all of that with the finest reputation anybody in Washington has ever had. And now that reputation is beginning to crumble. That's the dirty little secret. That reputation's starting to take some hits, and not because of anything Trump did, because of things Comey has done. The July 5th press conference, the October 28th letter to Congress, the listing of charges, but there's not going to be any prosecution. That just isn't done. There's all kinds of things haven't done. And now, this guy with the impeccable reputation, all of a sudden, some people are whispering he's got a power complex. People are starting to whisper, this man's trying to make it all about himself. This man's trying to figure out where the bright lights are in every story and end up right in them. Well, those are serious, serious assaults if you have spent your life crafting and building this impeccable reputation for virtue and for honesty and for integrity. So it's against all that this now is beginning to happen. So here's the first thing. This is the Washington Examiner. Comey hid among White House curtains to avoid Trump. I'm sorry. The only reason we know this is because Comey told somebody. And the fact that Comey's telling people this so that they will then tell the media, I would be embarrassed, is what I'm saying. This is embarrassing. Former FBI Director James Comey now says he tried to hide among the tall blue curtains adorning a White House meeting room in an attempt to hide from President Trump at an inaugural event. Comey said the incident was one example of what he believed were times Trump tried to create a public image that showed Comey was on his side. So we have image protection going on here. We have my independence is at stake here. I've got to do something that's looking bad. So now I'm going to tell people I had to hide in the curtains. This guy Trump was so eager to corrupt me, so eager to make it look like he and I were buds, I had to hide in the curtains. The FBI director is admitting that he hid from the President of the United States in the curtains on Inauguration Day. This is embarrassing. Benjamin Witz, who runs a blog, Lawfare or some such thing, is said to be a good Comey friend. Quote, Comey described really not wanting to go to that meeting on Inauguration Day for the same reason he later didn't want to go to the private dinner with Trump. The FBI director should be always at arm's length from the president. There was an additional sensitivity here, too, Benjamin Witz said, because many Democrats blamed Comey for Trump's election. So he didn't want any shows of closeness between himself and Trump that might reinforce a perception that he had put a thumb on the scale in Trump's. This is so embarrassing. This is a window into the way Comey's thinking, and all he's thinking about is himself. He's making all of this about him. Most people do. Most people's egos are such that everything ends up being about them. But this is not about James Comey, and yet he's trying to make it about him. And this is about trying to save and protect his reputation. And then it goes on to say, I didn't want to shake Trump's hand. You know, Trump, when he shakes your hand, he pulls you to him and he tries to make it look like you're buddies and friends. I said, no. You people, you've been in politics so long, you don't understand how people actually interact with each other in the real world. But Comey thought that Trump was engaging. Everything Trump was doing was designed to create an image that he and Comey were buds. But Benjamin Witt said, Mr. Comey also felt that he could not refuse a presidential invitation, particularly not one that went to a broad array of law enforcement leadership. So it wasn't just Comey. You've got all other kinds of law enforcement people there, and yet Comey admits to hiding in the curtains so that Trump will not notice him. This is like my cat thinking I can't see her when her head's poking around the corner. How in the world do you hide in the curtains and think you're not going to be seen? More importantly, why would you then leak this story? Because it feeds the lunatic left. Why the what? Well, he didn't want to go, but since all kinds of law enforcement were there, he had to. He had to go. We haven't even got to the memo yet. All of this is to follow up on this mysterious memo that nobody has yet seen that says Comey wrote that Trump tried to exert pressure to get him to let the Flynn thing go. The next story, this is at the Politico. Comey had concerns about Rosenstein. Oh, so all of a sudden now we learn that Comey has had deep concerns about the number 2 guy at the DOJ behind Jeff Sessions, who also has maybe a reputation that's even better than Comey's with everybody. Legal blog founder, that's Witz again, details conversations with FBI Director Trump fired. They could have put Comey in there, but they had to put the Trump fired guy instead of his name. The intrigue surrounding Donald Trump's decision to fire Director James Comey grew deeper Thursday as a friend said that Comey had expressed concerns about the independence of Rod Rosenstein, who played a controversial role in Comey's dismissal. Why doesn't all of this stuff just show? Why don't they just give Comey an op-ed so that he can put his name to these stories and be done with it? James Comey is 6 feet 8 inches tall. Did you know that, Brian? 6'8". And he's going to hide behind the White House curtains. I'm telling you, these guys do not understand how somebody like Trump works. These swamp people, there's a code of behavior in the swamp. You know, there's protocol. There's proper way to shake hands, proper way to step forward and address someone. There's a proper way to know who to acknowledge and who to let acknowledge you. It's a caste system. Everybody knows who ranks above them. You show respect accordingly. Trump comes in. He's like a bull in the china. He doesn't know that stuff. I mean, he's like a businessman sizing people up. Wants to get the measure of Comey. Who is this guy? This guy's investigated someone. Who is this guy? So he wants to get close to him, get to know him. Comey found that very suspicious. Reportedly, according to Mr. Witz, Comey found it very, very odd that Trump wanted to get to know him. Very weird. Especially since he's the FBI director. There's supposed to be some distance there. But Trump knows the guy works for him. And he does, folks. It's not a different branch of government. It's the executive branch. And you can look it up, you lunatic leftists. There is no mention of the FBI director in the Constitution.